is going really well today, as we can all tell.
Everything is smooth sailing. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. Okay. Boom. You see that? Did I stream it?
Yeah.
Okay, we're.
I see.
Okay, I'm starting it. Welcome back to the Sprint Podcast. Today we have a very special guest with us. He comes in the form of Kinky, all right? He was a content creator for the Cycle Frontiers Partner Program, and he achieved world's first title in the first ever dungeon for the Cycle Frontier, and he's a very, very large unit in his own gym. He brings a lot of experience in the high-risk extraction shooter genre. Kinky has a lot to talk about, and we're giving him the talkative talks, okay? Kinky, welcome in, buddy.
What's up, guys?
Today, we have a lot to talk about. We're going to basically talk about why the Cycle Frontier destroyed itself, blew itself up from inside out, and I know Kinky has a lot to say about this, so I'm just going to... He has a minimum 37 paragraphs, so minimum. So
at least
let him cook, you know?
I mean, I could go on forever, and everybody knows that, about why the cycle failed. But I'd rather look at it kind of like we've talked about it, kind of like the systems in place. Not just the cycle, but all games in general. And I think the first one, I guess all of us can talk about, is like the dopamine and just looting in general. Like in the cycle, if it's not for a quest, you find purple items, you find some rare stuff. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't sell for anything. It's heavy. In Tarkov, you can find people who have played, thousands and thousands of hours, and they still get excited over like a GPU, a LEDX. It's something worth getting out of. Like, hey, I want to get out of the raid. I found this. I would say the closest thing in Cycle was maybe like guns. You find like an exotic gun, especially early on. Like, that feels pretty good. But how do you keep that momentum going from, being a newer player who gets excited finding a blue gun because they haven't unlocked it yet, to a player who's, probably a content creator who's played thousands of hours? He still gets that, dopamine hit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of that tied into just how bad the game's economy was. Like, I think one of the rarest items in the game was like that Polarium crystal, right? The thing that you found like one in every like 200
The
rocks
thing that was
or whatever
worth
it was.
30K?
I don't remember the rate, but
That crystal?
was it?
Yeah,
Was it 30K?
Yeah, 30K.
All right, so we have
30K.
right, so we have like one of the rarest items in the games, and like you can sell it for 30,000 credits, which
It's
for anybody
nothing.
who didn't play Cycle is not a lot. You can make that by insuring your gear one time, and
Yep.
like
You buy
that is-
15 stems, and you can buy some ammo, and that's what it covers.
That's a lot. You're acting like
so
it's
it's
not
like-
a lot.
Oh yeah, especially season 3, everything got more expensive. If you got that, it wouldn't
Yeah.
even cover stims and ammo.
Oh, true.
Yeah, it was.
So you just have these items that are just like rare, but you also don't give a shit if you find one, right? So it's like, and it's partially because the economy was just so bad that nothing you found felt good because you just knew it wouldn't pay anything off, right? Like, you find a LEDX in Tarkov and you just know you can buy a few kits with that are like worth running, or you could like make a play with the kits. You could get a, maybe not like specifically meta kit off of one in LEDX, but like it's good enough to like buy a kit that you would, can respect running. But you're not buying a kit off of finding like a Polarium crystal or anything. You're buying like somebody said earlier, like stims, and then you're out of money. So
I mean,
Yeah.
context, that rarity would probably be pretty close to like a LEDX or a GPU.
yeah, it was.
If not more rare,
More
because you're not, it's not like a specific area you go. Like, you can go into certain rooms in
True.
Tarkov and know that there's a higher chance, but you need the key, whatever. And so it's more rare, and you still don't care about it. You might throw it in your safe pocket, but you're not coming out of the raid because of it.
Yeah. It was
I think
horrible.
that kind of like, oh shit moment where, hey, even if the squad, like, hey, I found this, I'd like to survive, let's get out. And realistically, besides maybe guns, like the cycle just never had that moment, especially after questing. I think it wasn't the most in-depth, but I think the questing at least felt pretty good, just because the cycle had no purpose in general when you're done with questing. So it felt good having like a reason to go into a raid. That's why it felt good. I don't think it was done well, but just like having purpose in the game. So like outside of that, I just don't think there was much, no excitement.
mean-
There was half the game was just irrelevant. PvE was irrelevant. It wasn't worth doing dungeons. It wasn't worth doing any of the endgame content because you could just kill a player and you're going to come out with better stuff.
Yep.
Well, I feel like Tarkov has a pretty decent system because like you're always like, even after you've done if you get cap or whenever you decide you're kind of done questing, like I feel like you're always looking at items wherever you are. Like, should I pick this up, or is this worth picking up? Even if you don't even need it for a quest, right? But like when I was playing Cycle, once I was done with my quests, I did not look at floor loot. I did not look anywhere for loot. Like maybe I would check a med box to see if I could grab a grenade or like a grenade box, whatever, right? But like I was not looting.
It
If
was
I
so
found an
bad.
item that was rare on my like on a dead person's body, that was fine. But I'm not mining crystals either, right? Like whereas in Tarkov, you're kind of always looking for something you can grab, even if you're done with your quest, because of like the robust economy that game has. And like I feel like that's almost necessary for a game that's like an extraction game, because that's like that's a large part of the game in my opinion, is having a decent economy that you're kind of always building your like money on.
They tried to fix it
Yeah,
with
no.
like the whole key revamp, right? So in season 2, they said they revamped all the keys. All the keys are getting a huge revamp. And all they did was they had these like, if you didn't play Cycle, they had like these key rooms, right? And they were supposed to be these like, if you find this key, it's going to be good for this specific type of item. So if you go to this room, you're probably going to find this item. But the thing that they forgot is that after the quests are done, which is like what, 7 hours into the game, I don't need anything anymore. And so those became irrelevant. And then they had like this super rare exotic key, which was like, if you find this, it's a holy shit moment, right? And then the room was insane, right? And then they nerfed it and it was so bad. And it's like, yeah, let's get the hardest key to get. It was insanely hard to find. Let's nerf it to the ground so you get literally terrible guns in there. And that's a good idea. That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
So
Season 3, I didn't sleep. I think it was like a 26-hour stream, took a break, then I did like a 40-hour, finished every quest. Nami beat me by a couple hours, and I didn't know that you could look inside the room. So I just randomly, I'm like, fuck it, like I opened it, and I think I got like a Gorgon, and then there was a guy with me. I was being friendly, I was solo, and I guarantee he picked up a bunch of stuff. There was like, what, 3 weapon spawns, armor,
Yeah.
and like at the very end, he dropped an exotic helmet. He's like, oh, this was in the room, and I guarantee he found some other stuff. I got a
Yeah.
Gorgon, and that was
Oh,
it.
yeah,
I didn't know where to
probably.
look.
that's
And,
like,
and then they nerfed it.
What's
even
insane is,
that
like-
annoys me.
I never even found one of those keys past like the one you got from the quest, and like even if I had found one, I would literally like I probably wouldn't even picked it up because it's not worth my time to run up there. Like
So funny.
it's like it's rarer than like a lead X, but I wouldn't even grab it because I just don't give a fuck about anything in that
Yeah.
room. Like
And
the
then you
amount of
have to
times I
deal
would
with
have to
PvE.
reset the raid. Yeah, exactly. I would have to reset so many times to even find a gun that's like slightly worth grabbing. It's like it's just insane. Like I feel like they were so out of touch with like what players would consider worth like looting. Like they thought if I saw a Gorgon in that room, I would be like, holy shit, this card was worth like I don't know, it's just insane what
In
they considered to be
perspective,
like good loot.
What do you guys think they could have done? Like in perspective to what Marathon could do in the future? Like, what do you think if you could fix the rooms, right? If you could fix the rarity issue, what would you have done to fix it?
There's nothing wrong with having like a room that's overpowered. Just make the requirement to get into that room like rare. It's like finding a red key card, right? That room is insane, or it used to be insane. I don't really play Tarkov.
I
But
played Tarkov
used to be
for
really
1
good.
year. I found 1 red key card in that whole year.
yeah, and
That's insane.
if you're not going to use the red key card, it still sells for a lot, right? So like
3 mil.
finding that key card feels so good because no matter what, like if you don't feel like running labs, you can still sell it on the market for a large portion of money. Right? But like
that red key card in Tarkov could like change the trajectory of like,
yeah, exactly.
your entire wipe. Like I don't really play Tarkov, but at one point I seen like 40+ mil
Yeah.
for like a red key card. I mean, that could literally change how you play the entire wipe. You could just run so many kits, and it's just cool that it's that rare. Like again, content creators, they're getting clips. They're people in their channels are donating to show them getting it for a clip. Like it's something exciting, and Cycle had nothing.
Exactly. Yeah.
I guess just because it ties in, I think the second thing that I really pushed was when it comes to endgame gear. I don't even consider the legendaries, the Karma, the Zeus Beam. I think they were in a pretty shitty spot. They were one hell of a grind to get, and I just don't think they performed as well. And then they ruined it by, if you complete all the quests, everybody got it. And then guess what? All the best players, it's the same 3 squads that get all of them. So then you have people going into raids versus the exact same squad, like with the legendary guns. But a big thing, and it doesn't, again, a lot of these ideas are just systems. They could be fine-tuned. It's just more or less the idea. But it kind of ties in key card rooms, it ties in kind of endgame, and it ties in loot, is exotic weapons. I personally felt like should be found in raid only. You cannot find them. So the meta kind of turns into purple weapons. It creates a little bit more variety because once you get exotic weapons, nobody runs purples unless you're like broke. And it's actually exciting to find. So like if you're looting weapon crates, it's going to force people to actually move around the map, not just like push one area because they know that's where PvP is. You're going to get more organic fights around the map. There's a reason to actually move around the map. There's a reason to actually have keys, just because a lot of the keys had weapon crates, but you never found shit in them anyways. But if there's actually a reason to move around the map, then I mean, I just think it's better for the economy. I even pushed have durability on them so they don't last forever. It could be a lot of durability, but it just kind of auto solves economy endgame. You don't have just people with 80 exotic weapons in their stash. And let's say Brute was the strongest, but you and your squad haven't found Brutes. Like you're running Core, you're running Bassi, you're running like whatever exotic gun that you have. So you're not just running into, you know, the meta guns consistently. And I just think you'd have a lot more. I think a lot of the purple guns were fun. But it's just the meta was Brute, Core. They nerf one or the other, then it's the other. I'd like to see something even in Marathon where you can't just farm X amount and just continuously buy the best guns in the game. I would like to see, you know, some sort of system to deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think the way they handled their top guns like exotic and I don't remember was it just legendary exotic?
Yeah.
I think that it was just like really poor, like Kinky said. I mean, like nothing at some point, like there's literally nothing in that game you could find, including the guns, where it was like a holy shit moment. And I mean that goes for all items. Like I just feel like Cycle basically missed the entire mark with like any items that could get you to like freak out. It honestly, it kind of felt like they were just scared to like make something that would like they were tiptoeing around with balance. I feel like the entire time that game was out, and like you could just feel it with how they designed their guns. Like
Because they didn't want to break
all
the
of the legendaries were like
makes sense.
Yeah, like I don't know. They were just scared to like create anything fun. It felt like just because something is used a lot, or I mean, it's like kind of like the shatter gun, right? Like everybody used the shatter gun early on, and to be honest, I feel like that gun wasn't even like end all be all. Like I really do think you could have used the Brute if you just played a little bit different, but people just wanted to use the shatter gun because it was fun. The reason that people use the shatter gun is because like whether they realize it or not, they're having fun with the movement of that gun and like what it required you to do to like win fights. And like obviously nerfing that, the way they nerfed that gun was like really poor. I felt like they just did everything at once and it just became like shit. But yeah, it felt like they were incredibly scared to like have guns that were kind of like standout. And like it kind of even like crept over into like their legendaries. Like none of those guns really felt like a legendary. Like I could find a Karma and not even want to use it because of how that gun worked, which is insane. Like the way they handled their like best loot in that game, legendaries included, was just like it was so bizarre to me. I don't understand why they were so scared to create something that would be like insane if you found it. You know what I mean? It didn't make sense to me.
There were so many like different options, like that the way they fixed the shatter gun was absolutely horrible. Like I know Dog said this, right? Some kind of dog. He said, instead of nerfing the shatter gun, just bring it up to be an exotic, you know, change it so the gun's actually meant to be really good. Or instead of nerfing the shatter gun, make the Brute better, make the Core better, make the other guns better around it. So people are more inclined to use these higher tier weapons. But no, whoever the dev said no. What the people want is the people want the gun to give you no movement speed. They want it to hit like it doesn't hit for anything, right? So you go up to someone, you're at their face, then the pellets go around the guy's head, right? Because it's random pellet spread, so you don't know what's gonna happen.
I really wish devs would stop balancing things on like how much use an item gets or a weapon gets, and start actually looking at like what that gun does. Because I feel like I've seen this now in so many games where like the reasoning devs nerf things is because like it has a lot of use. Like that's a good thing. If people are using a weapon, that means they're having fun with it. And like, yeah, some of the time it is going to be something where it's like extremely broken, so people have to use it. But like, you should really consider that sometimes, like, even if a weapon is taking over, it might be best to not change it because it could be the reason that people are having a lot of fun on your game. Like for me, I really enjoyed using the shatter gun. Like I thought it was a really fun gun to use that like kind of highlighted my ability to use like movement as well as aim, and like they nerfed it and there was no other gun that I felt like really required as much skill to use. So I don't know. I feel like devs sometimes like ruin their game or ruin part of their game because they just nerf things based on like how many people are using it, which is
Yeah,
so stupid to me.
I agree with that.
Be hard. I remember that clip with me and Bravo, and he was going for he gifted subs for kills in a game at Shadow Gundam.
Dude, don't bring that up, man.
but realistically, it's a smart point because it took like 5 to 6
Yeah,
Shadow
yeah.
Gun full pumps to kill you. It was crazy.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
game
it
messed
was
up
insane.
in so many different ways. I mean, I know Kinky wrote lists. I know Bravo and Brienne. We all wrote lists to the devs saying different ways that every single high tier player and the mid tier player, even low tier players, like changes that we want to make to the game, and they just didn't. No developer ever cared what we said. They didn't listen. From the way they created items to the way they even marketed their game to the way they Kinky said one of the greatest quotes of all time, and I still remember this. It's so funny. It's like they had the biggest streamers in the world playing the game, and it's an open house. Imagine you have an open house, right? And you have a really big streamer like Sum1G, right? You placed them on the driveway, and he says, "Can I go look inside?" No. You can't go look inside the house. You can't. You can't go look at the end game content. You can't go
So
look at the
it's-
high end weapons. You can't look at any of that because you're here. You know what I mean? They are
It's legit marketing 101. It's not
Yeah.
like my quote. It's not like don't have an open house and have them sit in the driveway. Like
Yeah.
you can't sell the game. I watched Summit 3 times in a row. I think it was CB2, season 1, season 2, and I think he actually came back season 3, whatever they're paying him. And I swear to God, when I would tune in, and no shit, I donated him $5 multiple times saying, "Hey, are you going to come play Cycle this season?" And that was for season 2. I'm like, shit, I've done more marketing than they have. And he's like, "Oh, there's a new." So this was for this end of season 1. So I'm like, "Yeah, dude, there's a new map and like something else." I'm like, "This is what the game needed." And they shit the bed with Ferris Island too. That was terrible. But he ended up playing, and I swear to God, all 3 times I watched him, he goes and kills Striders in water facility, and then dies to somebody who has better gear than him. I've watched it all 3 times. Like you could go back in the VODs, and it happens all 3 times, and he gets off right when the sponsorship's over. You need to showcase what you did. They came out with season 1. They added dungeon, laser drill, oil, and a lot of other stuff, and not a single like paid for streamer has touched any of that. Again, we did more marketing. There was before CB2. That's kind of why my name got pushed around. A lot of people knew me. I wasn't even streaming, but that's how I became friends with Chap. That's how I became friends with a lot of people. Is I grinded. I was test group. I grinded. It was basically like a test group, but streamers were allowed in, and I grinded laser drill everything, and then I would literally invite them to see it. And I showcased the new content to everybody. Everybody had these clips of laser drills. I met Chap because he was running solo on Crescent Falls. My squad calls in a laser drill. Chap runs up. He's like, "Oh shit, is that Kinky?" And we start VoIPing to each other. It was a great interaction. And then we had like the best gear. I got like triple bolty, died. Chap picked up my gear. He jumped off the side and died. And it was just like, it was a good moment. But like, I'm trying to show, I'm literally trying to showcase the game to streamers to hope they stick around. Like, you know that the game has potential, but they don't showcase it to anybody. So you just have the people that stick around long enough to know that. And like, your game can't survive on content creators who are, for the most part, only here because of that, because you're not bringing in new people.
Yeah.
And I mentioned it so many times. Their marketing, at the bottom of their screen, it was the new picture. And so it looks like what you have, like the mask on, whatever for Theros Island, they like redid like the picture for the cycle. It doesn't even look like the cycle. And it says prospect now for free or some shit, like Prospect Fortuna 3 for free now. Dude, nobody knows what Fortuna 3 is. It says for free now because like that makes you think that it's not always free. And it doesn't even have the name of the game. If somebody's seen that, they wouldn't know what game to search for. They would have to click on it. And like, it could be somebody who liked the game season 1. They came back season 2 and they might give it another try. But if you actually seen that picture, you would not know that it's the cycle. And I mentioned it so many times, and they give zero feedback. They just ignore you. They're like, "Dude, you're not in marketing." I'm like, "Dude, I know a little bit about marketing."
Yeah.
And it was just so frustrating. Like we had so many positive intentions, and when you just get basically yelled at every time, I mean, it starts to become more just criticism.
We're streamers. Wait, what? We're streamers. We are in marketing. Okay, whatever.
Some of like some of the best game developers I've ever seen, and like I'm not sure if you guys will know this name, but like David Vonderhaar, the guy who was like responsible for like the Treyarch games, which are unanimously decided like the best Call of Duty games is like the ones produced by Treyarch. That guy is one of the most humble developers I have ever seen in my life. Like, I was recently watching a podcast and like apparently like I was on like back in the day like 2010s like he was on forums like asking what players wanted and like really genuinely reaching out and like getting opinions and like he truly wanted to like interact with his player base and like see what they wanted and like he was putting in actual work and like specifically for Cycle, it was insane how like egotistical some of like the development team felt, where they felt like all of their decisions were the decisions that were correct, and like they were correct because their title is game developer, and like it's insane to me. Which like I'm not gonna lie, like there was parts of the game where I respect their development team and I understand that making games isn't easy, but like at the same time, you're not the one putting in thousands of hours on the game. And no matter how you look at it, there's like somebody who puts in that much time in your game is inevitably going to become like more familiar with it than you are. And like to have that ego to where you're not willing to listen to like what that player has to say, or if they say something that doesn't like perfectly go with the vision you have for the game, then what is the point of feedback if you're not willing to listen to anything that other than like what you want to hear? It's just insane to me. And I feel like that's all Cycle devs really did. And you know, I'm sure there's probably a couple good people on that team, but it was crazy to me like how little they actually listened to.
Yeah.
Well, so we got to reel it in just a little bit, otherwise you get me and Bravo going on specifics like the company. It's not good. Keep it more or less system, but yeah, I mean, in general, I guess my take to keep it very seemed like those devs are the ones who'd like queue up in the game, because they said like the devs would play it like on company time, and they just kind of like walked around on an empty server looking around, and they wanted it to look beautiful and interact well when it's just them playing, but that is just not what actual gameplay is. That's what it felt like to me. We also had interactions with some of them where like I actually played with a couple of them, like not on stream or anything, and it just seemed like all the devs couldn't take any criticism. They wanted you to say like good job, and then if you said any negative, they like took it to heart and took it extremely personal. Not how can I improve? You know, how do I do better? What can we do better as a company? It's if they did anything negative, they don't want to hear it. Otherwise, they get very upset.
Yeah.
And they did a lot of good changes. I actually think like season 3, the dungeon change, like whether people like it or not, I think it was better. I still think it was pretty shit content, but the loot was better. The boss got harder. The dungeon itself, like they had like these little spurts of, they would make changes to things, they just wouldn't do it right. Like they knew that they needed changes, they just wouldn't do it right. So then that's how you got to take criticism. Like, hey, we adjusted the dungeon. What do you guys think? And then you get a lot of people saying, oh, it's fucking awesome, and then some people don't, and like they won't take any of that criticism. They'll just take it to heart and like think that we're yelling at them. And you just don't get better in general. It's not just game dev, it's business in general. Like I own a gym. If I don't take feedback from my members, then how am I going to get better? I literally ask people when people cancel, like, hey, what could I do better? Like, why are you canceling? Theoretically, they're like, hey, you know, you're not cleaning the gym. Great, that's what I need to do. I need to clean more. That's why he left. How do I get better? And I can't get upset at that person or like try to defend it. That's why somebody would leave. Why are people not playing your game? You have to take it serious. And I just think getting a company like Bungie, I think they're going to be able to look a little past. I think they'll be able to actually take some criticism and hopefully make good changes. So,
yeah, I hope so.
So I think the third big one, and then it kind of ties everything together, like gear degrading in general. So Tarkov has it. Eventually, you can't repair anymore. Every time you repair, it still protects the same, but it goes down. I said it so many times. They apparently season 2, they mentioned they're working on it, but if you know Cycle, fuck man, you want to change the color of a gun and it's like a 7-month process. They got to hire new teams. They got 8 more mods to ban people complaining about it. And yeah, but my idea was armor in general. Again, it's the system in place. It's a PvPvE game. You're interacting with both. How do you make both worth playing together? And I think like watching Tsunami was like a good example. Is he'd have a full stash immediately, and all he would do is kind of like upgrade little pieces. He would just sell some pieces, get better pieces. And I think if you were using exotic guns, which you would have to find in raid for one, and if you're getting armor, it eventually degrades. It could be, let's say it starts at 1,000, it slowly goes down at 0. You can't use it. You either have to sell it, scrap it, whatever. But the more they're playing, just to be able to sustain their gear, they have to be doing PvE to be crafting it. And if nobody's actually killing PvE, looting stuff and crafting, you literally will not have like exotic and legendary gear. The players themselves have to be playing the game to sustain the end game gear. Otherwise, you just run into full stashes fighting each other. You grab whatever's worth the most and then you exit. I think Tarkov does a pretty good job with that. They have the armor degrading, even weapons they start breaking. I would not like to see. I hope Marathon doesn't have like jams like what Tarkov does. I don't want to get that specific. But it's just you need gear to not last forever. Otherwise, your economy just progressively gets worse. And then right when they announce no wipes, I'm like, that's it. Like there's like obviously it was over anyways. But like that's the big one is why does anybody with a max stash even come back for an update? They're gonna have a week of gameplay and they're leaving.
But they can clear it themselves if they want.
Yeah, they're working on it. It'll come soon.
Which they won't.
At least they're working on it.
And they didn't even have it ready for season 3. Couldn't even do that. Like
yeah.
I just think those 3 things together, it's 3 systems that just make the game replayable. What is it? Let me scroll up. So
Sorry.
exotic weapons found in raid only. There's a reason to actually move around the map. So this is cycle specific, but I think it translates to all extraction shooters. There's a reason to move around the map. So if you drop in, it's always worth having keys. It's always worth moving around the map. If it degrades, it just means that you're not going to have just stashfuls of the same gun. You're going to be able to use purple guns. They're relevant. Degrading, same thing. And then, what was the second one? I don't even remember.
It's all right.
But yeah, I mean, they all tie in together. It realistically just makes your game like a reason to go into raid. If you watch like Landmark playing Tarkov, that dude loots everything. He kills everything, but he still loots everything because he knows that he can find stuff to have to get money to be able to sustain his kits. And I'm really curious on Marathon. They talked about gear, they talked about implants, stuff like that. Like I'm really curious on how it's going to interact. Like, is it going to be more or less like you just want money, so it's worth going around looting so you can actually buy implants or buy stuff that you want? I'm curious on how that's going to go.
Yeah.
And like one of the kind of like a question for you guys is like, I kind of feel like even when I was playing games when I was younger, it's like I feel like balance has become this sort of thing where devs feel like they have to balance everything perfectly, or like the game won't be like correct, I guess. And like I kind of feel like an imbalance of weapons sometimes can create this like desire to acquire it because of how good it is. And like for you guys, like I'm wondering, like, do you guys think it's important to have weapons that are like arguably unbalanced but creates that like drive to acquire it? Kind of like, let's say Arbiter before it's patched. Like let's say the Arbiter was only found in raid. The cycle, which is, for anybody who doesn't know, that's a cycle like exotic sniper that was like one shot to the head, but to anything besides exotic. Like do you guys think it's important to like have a gun like that to where it's like you could say it's unbalanced because it one shots everything, but
yeah,
I think
also
it 100% comes down to availability.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think the Karma shouldn't even have the charge up. I think it should have just one tapped heads, but it's extremely hard to get, and possibly even degrade so it doesn't last forever. I just think having stashfuls of that gun, I think it ruins it for the sweaty players and the casuals. The casuals are going to run into more players who just have it at the ready, and then it just turns into the meta that's all you're versing when you are the sweaty player. I think that's why I pushed it so many times on limiting the end game gear, or like you really have to grind for it and it doesn't last forever. You just always have a reason to play. Like you don't have the gear if you don't play the game and you die a few times. Like you don't have it, you have to keep playing to get it. I think that's something Dark and Darker actually does well, is like you're always chasing better gear. Obviously it's a very different game. But it's just once you're done with progression, then what?
I think Dark and Darker's framework is like, I've been trying to get into Dark and Darker, but that game it's the most frustrating game because I can get a good kit, right? I'll get like the greatest kit, like the best thing I've had in my whole Dark and Darker career, and I'll just lose it almost immediately to some guy ratting, and then it's just so hard to build up that good armor again, which I guess is a good thing, but at the same time, it's like, it's just frustrating because I'm a new player to that game, right? I'm not a Giga Chad. I don't know everything about the game, but it's just frustrating that for me to feel like I have an actual chance for me to feel like I'm having fun in that game, I have to genuinely like evac a good amount of times to get a good amount of gear, because it, like, even if you want to buy like a good weapon or you want to go to the shops, I look at I bought myself access to the trading hall or whatever it's called, and I was looking and I wanted this sword, right? And the guy was asking for so much gold, it was ungodly. And then I feel so depressed because I have 30 gold to my name. The guy was asking for 700. I'm like, how am I going to get the 700? Then I buy the item and then I lose it in a raid right away.
Yeah.
I mean, I was with Bravo. We got, when High Roller first came out, We were the squad that killed Lich first, so that was like a big one. He's got his name on the board. I played every play test. I was one of the best boss farmers. Like me and Bravo did it like 2 different tests. I was with other people. We're the ones like selling the unique. And man, I can't even make money in this game. Like playing Dark and Darker, it felt like a chore for a week. It feels like it's either you're very casual. So 2 things. For one, it's either very casual or extreme sweat. Part of that is like streamers kind of like having their community give them stuff. But that mid game seems really rough because you start getting a little bit of gear. That means you can kill people with no gear, which means no money, but you're still losing to the people with the gear worth money. Like it doesn't feel like there's a mid game right now. You can't slowly, you do normals and make no money, or you go high roller and get shit on. But I think it's a good, just like Tarkov, it's a good example where casuals will really enjoy the difficulty of the game, even if they're making no progress.
Yeah, no, I agree
like,
with that.
There's people who will just play. You'll watch a lot of streamers, or people like I even have friends in real life that are playing, and they're like running around in gray and green gear, and they're just PvPing shit, killing stuff, and they're super happy when they find green pants with a little weapon damage, and they're just chilling on normals.
Yeah. I mean, it is also, I think it is a little harder now because the game, it has no quest lines. It has no other way to make money besides just extracting, right? And trading. So I think once they get more content in the game, it could get better for that mid game, but they just have to give more time to it.
There's a patch today for that game too.
Is there?
Wipes. Yeah, wipes today.
Wipes? Huh.
Yeah.
My inventory was already wiped, so you know what I mean?
Wiped and a pretty good patch.
Nice. Okay, that's good. Good to hear. Good to hear. But yeah, comparing Dark and Darker, Cycle, everything to Marathon, I think Marathon could literally be the best like extraction shooter in the genre, just because there's so many other companies that have made so many mistakes that they can literally 99% of the mistakes they would have already been made by another company. So if they did their research, if they looked into a lot of these other companies, they're going to know that they can literally kill the market. They can destroy it. I think this game, I mean, I might be wrong in this quote, but I think this will kind of blow up like Fortnite did, just because it's going to be the first console game in this genre. People on console don't know about the genre. They really don't. They don't know about it. They've been playing battle royales for the past 5 years. They're going to see the genre and their little brains going to go, you know what I mean? Oh.
Isn't that what DMZ was going to do?
Like,
DMZ's
Cycle's going to die because DMZ, man. Everyone is saying it.
DMZ was the most...
It's a big company.
So DMZ was terrible. It was so bad. Everyone at the reveal was like, this is it?
At least,
DMZ, this is
at
it?
least Marathon's a standalone game, though, right?
Yeah.
Like DMZ was like a fucking...
Yeah, that's not even getting continued
game,
into MW3, so... You
So,
know,
Yeah, no,
I think last thing for all of us to kind of talk about, and then what I'd like to do is just the 4 kind of topics. Like, what type of system would each of us actually like to see, like in Marathon, right? Like gear degrading. But I think the last thing is just endgame in general. I think the genre itself is kind of cursed right now. I think every game pops off for a week or two. It's really, really fun. You kind of do the progression, and then that's it. You're just max gear. You're running through, and again, everyone's gonna say you're the streamers or the people no-lifing it. Like, yes, but eventually the casuals will get there. If there isn't an end game, like even casuals, they watch somebody like Landmark in that game, or they watch Orlanthi and stuff in D&D, and they want to get there. That's what keeps a lot of people around. You need something to work towards. Star Siege had a cool idea where there was actually a ranked mode, and when you would kill players, you loot their dog tags, so it's PvP incentivized, and that's how you climb. It's still loot drop, you still lose your guns and everything, but that was at least a good idea. But what do you do? Like Tarkov's actually doing the arena mode. What do you do for the people who stick around and there's just no reason to go in a raid? Like, do you try to do a different game mode? Like my idea for the cycle was you would drop into like Theris. It'd be a different type of game mode. You could even do a voiceover like, hey, the storm's stronger, you can't stay in it. You still can craft a piece of gear like in Cycle, but you basically get a BR circle that pushes you to the center, and the last team alive can craft a piece and upgrade it and evac. It just gives like this PvP incentivized something to do end game gear dump. Like when we have nothing to do progression wise, we need that. But then you start splitting the player base. Like, is it worth doing that, or do you just focus on trying to be like the Tarkov, where each raid feels like it has purpose, which I think is extremely hard to do.
I think like for one, I think PvP is probably the most important part of like an end game in this type of game, and I think it partially comes down to like, for one, is the game's PvP just like fun to play, as like a base thing, because I think there's a ton of ways to handle end game, but like the fact that the fact that Cycle even had the player base that it did and had the people grinding, like, it kind of just shows that, like, at the end of the day, that game's PvP was pretty fun. Like, because otherwise, if that game's PvP was not fun, I genuinely don't know how many people would have been on that game, if any. Right, so it kind of just shows just how like important PvP can be to a player or a game's player base. And like me and Vasco kind of talked about this on the last podcast, but I think it just comes down to like how they handle stimulating PvP. Like there could be a game mode like you're talking about, or it could just be like in raid things that stimulate PvP. And I think like if I was the Marathon devs, I would want like the first thing I'd focus on is just having like a really fun PvP sandbox to begin with to build off of, right? Like I think it really needs to just be like an enjoyable experience to start with, and then I would start focusing on whether it's like random events that kind of like take you around like the map and create dynamic situations, or maybe even like a ranked mode like you were saying where top players can go in there and like 1v1 for gear, right, or whatnot. So I think it could be a lot of things. I don't think there's like a really one answer. I just think that they need to nail down like a really fun PvP sandbox first.
Yeah.
I think with prioritizing PvP and then just creating random shit that happens in the raids.
Yeah.
I think just airdrops, shit to work towards. I would rather just see where it's the exact same gameplay loop, but I just think there should be more things to work towards instead of having. I don't want to separate the community more and more. Otherwise, people even talk about Dark and Darker. Oh, for high roller, have like you need blues or better. I'm like, dude, then 98% of the community is not even going to get there, and it's going to be full sweats. It's not fun when you get 10 squads in the same map where everybody is juiced because it's just third party. Like the variety is nice, and I would rather see that route. I would rather see things open up, dynamic environment. Like Cycle had so many good ideas. Like I thought the game was just going to keep going. We had the meteor strikes, and then it just like stopped there. Like that was it. It's like, oh man. And it's, I mean, realistically, it's whatever they had from the previous game. They didn't make anything new. So,
yep.
But that's the route that I'd rather see. I'd rather just go in and just shit happens that makes me want to move around the map and fight over.
Me and Bravo talked about this a lot last week, but like to incentivize PvP, incentivize a lot of different things is just give us a ton of achievements to go after. You know, like it doesn't matter if they're achievements that'll take a year to get. You know, it doesn't matter. Just give us little goals to go for that'll give us a lot of different cosmetics, maybe some XP or just something. It's just this for a game in this genre to survive. I don't think any game's really done it super well. Again, like we've all been saying for the end game sense, because again, once we get to a certain spot, we have nothing else to do, right? If there was just something that had really an unlimited type of progression that has some meaning, then it would be great. But no one's really nailed it on the head yet. So,
Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, you would see like your friend's name scroll at the bottom. It'd be like Vasco rank 467,000, whatever. Mine was like 48. Like I did nothing but play that game, man. I'd get home, I'd play that. I like fakes being sick to play that game. And I had one of the titles that almost nobody sees, and it was like 1,000 triple kills with C4. Like it was something. So all I did for like literally 6 months was run around and throw C4. And like right off the bat, you'd go like terminal, you'd run upstairs, you throw it at their spawn and just hope you get a triple kill. And it took forever. But it was like I'm still playing the game. It's a good loop, but I have something to work towards.
yeah.
Like dude, it could be the 1,000 headshots with an arbiter, right? And then it's just you got something by your name. It's like, oh man,
You know,
like
and like the biggest thing is like that created you're saying that created 6 months of playtime for you, right? How long do you think it took them to add that achievement to the game? 5 minutes? Like
some yeah, like
it's like I
it's a
feel
little
like people
title.
get this. Yeah, I feel like people get this like weird idea in the head where playtime equates to how much content you drop into your game, and that is just not correct. Playtime equates to like all of the tiny little extras that you add that take you 5 minutes that people enjoy, and like I feel like I feel like there's some people out there who assume that like, oh, but we need content drops with new PvE dungeons every 3 months or the game's gonna die. It's like, no, we need tiny little things to do every day that draw the game's longevity out. That are it doesn't have to be a full new dungeon, right?
Yeah.
I feel like they have like a God of War mindset.
Yeah.
Like they think it's like a playthrough game. We just have to add more shit. It only takes them this long to do one dungeon. We need 3 more that takes forever. It's like, no, just make the dungeon worth doing over and over.
Yeah.
That's what these games need to focus on. They need replayability, not amount of content.
Just give it different challenges. Like if in the cycle, that little dungeon that they had, I probably did every challenge that I could have done in every dungeon 7 times. Like it just if there was like a little accolade book where it was like complete a dungeon as a solo, complete a dungeon with a 2-man, complete a dungeon with a rusty K28. Someone's gonna do it. They might be stupid. Someone's gonna do it. You know what I mean? Like that added so much playtime for me. Like if I didn't do any of those challenges, I would have quit the game 8 months ago. But that literally gave me like 8 months of content just for myself. Like it's insane.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, but you know, it is what it is. I know Destiny's starting to work towards like I know Bree was, I think you were starting to say Bree, but it's like they just added the player levels, right? Like the
Well, no, they've had triumphs in the game since Destiny 1.
tridents,
Triumphs.
triumphs.
So it's like challenges you do, kills with particular weapons, kills that said subclass, soloing a dungeon, soloing flawlessing a raid. They have things like that built into the game already. Like, and it's Bungie, so like I'm already in my mind assuming
It's
those
already
kind
done.
of things will be in Marathon.
I mean, that's
I
I
mean-
know my friend Nick, right? He does all the raids. He was flexing, like apparently all they do is flex their raid report, right? They go online, they go to raid report, and they're like, yeah, I have this badge because they sold flawless. I'm like, that's awesome, dude. That's so awesome. You know what I mean? So I mean, if I cared about Destiny 2, like because I don't play the game, so I don't really know much about it. But like if that was Cycle, for example, I would get everything, and just like you're saying, you know.
Yeah.
But
And Destiny, like specifically, they have solo flawless dungeons where, so dungeons are always designed to be able to be completed by one person. Whereas raids, you need a certain amount of people to complete them. Usually, I mean, the newest raid you can technically solo, but typically you need to you need to have a certain amount of people to complete the mechanics. Whereas a dungeon is specifically designed to be able to be done by one person. And with that in mind, they also created a challenge for like doing it solo without dying, which is a solo flawless. And you get rewarded with, usually it's a emblem that you can wear and show off to like everybody, and people know what that means when you're wearing it. And then even in the past, they haven't really done this recently, but I think for the first time they ever added the solo flawless like rewards, or maybe the second time, but they added a ghost shell, which is like that little companion you have with you.
yeah,
And it's like this unique shell where it's like it really stands out and people know like where you got it from. So I'm hoping to see a lot of that in this game. I definitely hope they take like
well, that's
inspiration
good
for
though,
that.
because if Destiny already has some of those aspects and they build off of that, you know, that'd be awesome. I mean, I really have really high hopes for this game because I think they know what they can build, and I think there's just so much potential in this genre for them. Like they're going to release on all platforms. Like that's mind blowing. Like that's unheard of for the genre. It really is. So as long as all the stuff that they have in Destiny 2 is brought over, then I'm fine with
I just
that.
think that I think one of the biggest things that I continue to see PvE and PvP games, like extraction games, struggle with is just like the balance between PvP and PvE. And like specifically in Dark and Darker right now, we're having this like really big like wave of just like PvP only players that don't really care about doing the other half of the content, which is like the bosses. And I think that obviously Marathon's probably going to be a much different game, but I really hope they focus on like finding that balance between like where people are considering both parts of the game when they're building their loadout, and we don't just have people that are like stacking PvP like mods or whatever. Because like if you stack PvP only mods, maybe like the boss is just gonna one tap you if you don't have the right stuff on. You know, like that's hypothetical, but I think they really need to like focus on balancing their game, or like making people think of both parts of the game when they're like loading in.
Yeah, I mean, Destiny already does like I don't know if it's called this, but like when the PvE bosses have like the overshield or whatever, that's a certain color. I don't know what that's called, but like it would incentivize, like if they have this in Marathon, right? They have a certain boss that has a certain like shield, it would incentivize you to use your best gear possible for that, the best gear that would help you in that fight, and then that just kind of helps in the end game loot of. I mean, I don't know how they're gonna do like loot drops and stuff, but again, like they already have so many things in place, like in Destiny, that could make for so many different elements. You know what I mean? Like maybe a certain week it's going to be this elemental type. Maybe the next week it'll be a different elemental type. Just so many
100%.
options. So, you know, but what do we think about like what do we all want to see progression wise? Like in like what do you want to see that makes you get on every day? Like what do you want to see in Marathon that's going to make you be like, hey, I need to do this today, or you know, what's going to be that thing for you?
Leaderboards.
Leaderboards.
Yeah.
It's a good one. I want all different types of leaderboards. You know what I mean? Like not just like most kills. I want most PvE kills, most dungeons completed. I want a ton of categories. You know what I mean?
Dude, Bungie's API, you could have the furthest distance traveled if you wanted to. It doesn't matter. They'll have everything probably. It's Bungie. Every leaderboard in the book they'll have.
That's what I like to
I
hear.
mean, you can
think-
go on Destiny Tracker and see like 50 different leaderboards right now.
I think leaderboards in game is tough to make it not like time related.
Yeah, that's
Right?
a
Like
good point.
let's say I play 12 hours a day, Bravo plays 6, even if he's a better player than me. Like there's a good chance. Like the Dark and Darker leaderboards were awesome when it was a week long like test, but now that it's out, it was what, even 2 weeks long, and then now it's wiping, but you get like a month long, it's just whoever's on the most for the most part. Right? Like you can't really be competitive if you're, you know, you got a
Yeah,
job or
that's
this and
fair.
that. It's so how do you I love leaderboards, don't get me wrong. I just don't know how you can do like in game where it's not just time gated.
I mean,
Marauders
so we
did
know
this-
they're coming, but
Marauders did this thing where I think Marauders is it's not one of the best games out there, but I think they did something really cool. It's that they had like they had this leaderboard, right? But it was only for the weekend. It was a weekend leaderboard where the top 1,000 players, so it's a really good majority of their player base because there's only a couple thousand people playing, right? At that point in time. So like if there's 5,000 people playing, 1/5 the player base is going to get this, but it makes you get on every day. And if you were in that top 1,000, you got like a huge like supply crate. It was basically like a crate you can put in your stash, like put stuff in, right? But it would incentivize you to get on that weekend, and it was the challenge for that weekend was get as many headshots as possible, right? So you would just get on and be grinding to get headshots the whole weekend just to get top 1,000 in the leaderboard. And it's not like it's top 1,000, you know, like you can get it. It's reasonable, and it's only for a weekend, you know. Like if we had weekly challenges on the weekends, like that'd be awesome, you know.
So like
Leaderboard
the thing
wise.
with leaderboards, in my opinion, is that it's like it is so hard to make a leaderboard that is like strictly skill based and not time related. Just because like for it to be skill based only, you would have to make content that is only completable by like certain people, right? So it's like for Dark and Darker, for example, like maybe the first couple playtests we have certain teams that are like I could play for 2 hours but still be better at like efficiently killing bosses than like other teams. But like now my grandma could kill the Lich, right? Like it's so easy for most teams to where it's like my even if I'm like theoretically slightly better than killing like I'm better than Jesus, what am I saying? I'm better at killing the Lich than like other people. It's still too hard for me to like keep up with those players if they're playing more than me, right? So even if it's like a boss fight with mechanics, eventually it's going to become so easy that there's no real skill gap in killing it. So yeah, it's for me. I don't even know how to start with like making a leaderboard that's mostly skill based. Besides just making the game extremely hard, and then obviously I don't think that's the correct answer.
I mean, I think it comes down to the type of content too, because theoretically there was actually a leaderboard for like dungeon completion time and cycle, right? There's a bunch of streamers that did that. They time it from when it's open. That's something
That's
that's
true.
not necessarily, but you need X amount of content to do that, right? You can't do how long does it take you to get 5 kills in a raid if it's mostly PvP based, or kill 50 mobs. Like you can't do that. So if it's not like dungeon or like PvE specific, it's a lot harder to do leaderboards. If it's just like in raid, like imagine leaderboards for Tarkov, like just in raid, it's just whoever plays the most. Imagine it was, you know, even if we did most Lich kills in Dark and Darker in 4 hours, which is like most people can put 4 hours in and most people can kill Lich, you could just get screwed over PvP. You could just get W killed by people, or you get Ghost King half the time, right? Even if they did it where it's always Lich, there's still so there are many variables where it's just RNG or it's time gated. So besides something like completing an X amount of time, so it's the fair playing field for everybody. I think the idea is awesome, 100%. I think leaderboards is good, something to work towards. Marauders did a good job. I just think it just comes down to like what kind of content we have.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's tough to see too because we don't really have much to go off of at this point in time. But just, I mean, does Destiny have anything like that? Do they have any leaderboards besides like the raid stats?
Not really. It's like kind of the
mean-
world's first raced, and then
Yeah,
that's basically it.
yeah.
I mean, they do on third-party websites that
The
are
people,
tracked by
like-
the API. But
I feel like if it's not in the main game, it's like, you know what I mean? Like if it's not on the menu screen, I'm not going to care about it. I'm just like,
Oh, I mean,
Dark and
yeah.
Darker does a good point because it is a good job because it's literally right there, you know? It's right in front of your face. Even if you don't know it's there, you're going to find it, you know? But yeah, I think they do a great job at that. But it's just me, I guess. That's just me. But But yeah, again, the issues with this game is progression and end game. And Kinky, I want to hear your point on this. But what would you want the like time to kill wise? What would you want to see in Marathon?
I think I'm actually against or different than most people. Even Cycle, I would have loved to see like another 25% like longer to kill people. I don't like landing 3 or 4 headshots to kill somebody. I don't want it to be so like Star Siege is one where a lot of people would complain about the time to kill, but it wasn't really complained about when you played the game for a long time. Like once you get used to the game and you get better at shooting this and that, like people died almost instantly.
Is that because
I
of the
think even
gear or
Cycle,
just skill?
Yeah, I mean, it's gear starts changing, weapons get stronger and stronger, so like you get like 40% headshot damage, you get mag size, you get accuracy, whatever. It's just as you progress, the guns get much stronger. You start getting more HP, but the weapons do more damage to balance it out, and then you start getting perks. So the time to kill just got lower and lower. You could like almost kill 2 people. Like you could kill all 3 squads with like an LMG without reloading. The cycle, like most games in general, I like the Star Siege because you're playing around abilities and it's a little bit higher time to kill. So like you're making plays and making shit happen, not like peeking and then getting 1 or 2 good shots and then the fight's over. I like more like the arcadey. I think it's also more general pop friendly, kind of like Apex. You have time to shield if you're outplaying. Like you talked about it the last podcast, where if you're moving while medding, like you can at least outplay a little bit. I just think slightly longer fights are more enjoyable to me personally. I just like Cycle, like actually popping a few meds, swapping in and out, especially when it comes to team play. If it's like a solo game, I don't mind it being more like Tarkov, but I think it's generally, I think it's 3 people, right? It's the trios.
Yep.
So I think especially trios is going to be like the dominant mode. I think slightly higher time to kill is more enjoyable. I would say like Cycle maybe 20-25% longer would be ideal. Again, it depends on weapons, it depends on mods, it depends on perks, because it could be pretty long, but then when you're maxed out and Cycle, everybody holding with Arby's and Bassies, like it didn't seem like it was very high time to kill because everybody held with that.
Yeah.
But if you got up close with a brute, then I mean you got to land like half a clip.
Yeah. So. Yep. I agree with that. I think a lot of people do complain about just I don't think people just complain in general. I mean, let's be honest. In Tarkov, people complain because they just get one tapped around a corner, right? Some people complain about Apex because it takes 7 years to kill someone. You know what I mean? But again, the longer the fight goes on, the more fun it is, like you said, and the higher the skill gap is really. Because again, if it's a one-shot game and there's a Timmy that on Tarkov can press the mouse by accident and kill Landmark, you know what I mean? So it just, I think Marathon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in like time to kill adds skill gap. To be honest, like, I mean, you could play PUBG and you could be running across like some road and get like one tapped by a car 98 and you're like,
how's that fun?
I guess that guy is better than me.
Yeah,
like,
how's that
I don't
fun?
know. It's not fun. It's like I don't feel like I get to fight back, and I get like PUBG. And I know there's people for each type of genre. Like I'm not saying PUBG needs to change. I'm just saying like in a game where you can lose everything in a raid and just it's not like a battle royale where each game is static. It's like you're losing your gear. I feel like you should have a chance to fight back no matter your like situation, unless obviously you put yourself into a really bad spot. But like,
the longer it is to kill, the more like outplay, or like if a rat is sitting in a bush and they shoot you and you're a much better player, or even just better in general, or even better gear, like Cycle, that's why they didn't let armor matter, because they didn't want a casual to feel like they're losing. Like, but if you don't put in the time, it, like you said last time too, like you're not excited to really loot the gear if the gear's not doing anything to begin with, right? You're just risking it for no reason. So if there's a rat sitting in a corner, but it's higher time to kill, like you have an actual chance to turn and fight the guy or get a med off. But if it's too short, like PUBG and stuff, I think that's fine in those games. But I think just how, if the game wants to do well like Fortnite, like, or really like pop off for this genre, like you said, this is potentially the game that kind of brings this genre to life, not just these little $20 Steam games that pop off for 2 weeks. And I think slightly higher time to kill is going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
And obviously each game has its own like perfect spot for time to kill based on like movement and like how their guns work and all that stuff.
Yeah, like you get a good player, Apex still, like you can one mag somebody in half a second.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just if you're a decent player. But for the most part, if you just get like an average person randomly shooting at you, it's not just over. Like Tarkov, imagine how many good players die because there's just a guy in a bush with a pistol. And again, it works for that game. I just think for the next extraction, which everybody thought Cycle was going to be, it was going to be the more little bit more casual Tarkov, and it could pop off, and they just screwed everything up. But that's what I'd like to see out of this game.
Yeah.
What I don't know if you guys talked about on other podcasts. What do you want to see for healing? Like what type of healing, shield, armor?
Talked about it a little
what would
bit
you
on
like?
last episode, but like
I think it's a very important part for a game.
we mostly talked about like how movement should work with shielding or like healing yourself. Like I always think you should be able to move because it allows
Yep.
you to like actually outplay. But specifically for healing, like I don't know. I think it's usually pretty much the same in every game. Like there's some heals that are more over time but allow you to keep playing, whereas some heals like they heal you all the way up, but you got to stop moving. I mean, I'm just looking for variety, to be honest. Like let people pick what they want to kind of use. It's kind of funny because like Cycle had medkits, but nobody used them because they were just so like bad.
Yep.
Like I think
I
they should
guess-
really consider.
I think when it comes to like improving gear, does your flat HP get better? Like Cycle, a lot of
Yeah.
people said they kind of liked. I know like Spud Hunter was a big advocate of it. Where you almost go like the Apex route. So like let's just say you physically have 50% more HP. You could do like shields and heals. I know there's just some people kind of deep dive into it, but
I think that's just easier for like the devs, honestly, going the Apex route, because I think Cycle screwed up just in so many ways because their numbers were just always so off. Because when armor's integrated into the actual health, I just feel like it's so much easier to just do it based off shields. I think Apex does it in a really good way because, again, you have the shield cells and the batteries, right? And it's like if you compare that to Cycle's stims and medkits, why are people using shield cells and batteries, right? They're using both, but in Cycle they would never use medkits, right? Which is comparable to batteries. That's because the shield, right? The shield worked in so many different ways, and I think it'll just help you in that way. Because imagine we're playing Marathon, right? And you find this shield, right? You find a great shield. You're just gonna feel better overall because you look at it, right? It's a pink shield, right? I want a pink shield, right? And your health gets bigger. I just don't. Like, you could go the Tarkov route too, right? Tarkov has, what's the best Tarkov? The Tarkov armor. You have like
Level 6 or whatever.
Slicks, right? Slicks.
Slicks,
I don't
yeah.
really like. I put it on and I know it's supposed to be better. But I don't really know what's better. I just look at the stats. I'm like, okay, that's cool. But like, I like,
feel like
seeing it.
Part of this is because like Cycle didn't have a shield system, right? They only had health, so
Yeah.
there's just less to work with there, right? Like the reason that shield batteries are like usually better than cells are because it allows you to heal that the other 50% of your HP, or your shield or health, because like they split up into 50-50, right? It's like your shield and then your actual health.
Yeah.
There's no 50-50 in Cycle. It's just 100% HP. So like, why would you not use whatever heals you fastest only? Whereas there's situational parts where you would rather use a shield cell versus a battery when you actually have to work with a shield as well as HP.
Yeah.
So it creates more like variation in like what you use.
There could
I
also
think
be
it's
so
just
many.
more.
You
It's
go.
like more simple for people to understand too. Like Psycho was just back end numbers and you had no idea. They would give you some hints, but it didn't make sense to anybody. The pen, like it said 25 pen, but you have 28 armor with exotic. Like, is it actually, are you doing full damage or are you doing partial? Like you had no idea.
Yeah.
And then on top of
did.
that, gear not mattering, but it didn't, like you just, okay. And then what if you're running a purple gun against exotic armor? You don't have the pen, but then you're running a pen mod. Like it didn't make sense at all. I think just the cleaner it is for people to understand. If I have the shield, I have more HP. If I have this, Star Siege did a pretty good job where you kind of build your own kit where you could be a little bit tankier, you could med a little bit quicker, you could be a little bit faster, and you can kind of build your own, your own play style. But I think just the easier it is to understand for everybody, the better. Because there was the entire time there was topics in general chat about like what does pen do, and there's just one of the
No
40
one knew.
mods trying to explain it, and they can't explain it. Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, you're probably,
Yeah.
I don't know, you're penning.
Then we had people
they
test
just-
it like some kind of
You
dog.
might be, but we're not sure.
Literally last month of the game's life where people stopped playing it, some kind of dog released a video on like different guns shooting different armor, and it was the craziest thing I've seen because they were using a green tier weapon, which is the second worst tier in the game, and he was shooting the best armor in the game, and from this distance it would do the legit same as an exotic weapon. Sometimes it would do better than an exotic weapon. Like it made no sense. It was like they put a toddler in the office, right, and just told him to click the keyboard. Like it It didn't make sense. So, yeah, like you say, as long
Yeah,
as
I
the
mean-
people can understand it a little bit better, because all of us put thousands of
I
hours into the
think-
game and none of us can explain it.
I think the cycle, like whoever was responsible for creating that system, I think it got created. It was a terrible system, and they didn't have the time or want to like overhaul the system that was very clearly like shit. So
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't think we're gonna see that big of a blunder from like Bungie. I'd be mind blown if they had anything close to that level of like disregard for an actual like system that works. So it was pretty bad.
Yeah. They'll definitely do better. I don't think anyone can ever mess up that badly ever
I
again
mean-
in their
I mean,
entire
dude,
lives.
The pen and armor system in that game was mind blowing. It was it genuinely seemed like a school project. Like, it's kinda
Yeah, I
insane.
don't even understand how it just, I can't believe that after I played 3,000 hours of the game, I literally cannot tell you how it works. I honestly have no clue. I have no idea. It makes no sense. I can't
Yeah,
tell
I
you.
mean,
I wish I knew, because I kept
we
I
need
asked,
we need Einstein on the case, bro. Like, we're not figuring
Einstein's gonna
this
look
out.
at it and be like, I give up. He's not gonna know. But yeah,
I think to at least finish talking up about Jaeger, drop my full blown conspiracy that they officially made the Cycle Frontier just to make as much money as they possibly could off what they already had from the old game. And besides map work, they did zero continuing development, even skins. Midway through season 2, they figured out that they're running out of stuff. They dropped the Howler, which is in the last couple skins that they had. And they had nothing else from the old game, so they shut it off. And that's why they went a free-to-play game, because they knew that they weren't planning on continued development. And if people paid $30, they should be keeping a server up. From the start, they did not plan on being successful.
yeah, I could see that, because they
Yeah.
built their game on the coding. They said they built their game on the coding of a different game, and the stories that we've all seen from that game, like I don't know
Horror
if I don't know if I
stories,
should say the stories, but like people they don't know, like I don't know if I want to say it, but imagine
So-
you're building something, right? And imagine you're in charge, Kinky, right? You're like, build us this piece of content, and you're like, sure. You're like, what are we going for? What's the goal? No goal, just do it, right? No one knows what's going on. There's no outline. It's just go
Build
do
us a
it.
laser drill for what? What's it supposed to look like? What does it do? No, just build us a laser drill. I'm like hitting up Google and but yeah, no, I mean, okay, any of you besides map changes. So we got Theris, we got the dungeon, which is still just map design, and they're using things they already have, crushers. Name one piece of continued development, something new that they built that they added in the game that was not map related. One
There
thing,
was-
not even skins. All the skins were old.
There was
All
nothing.
the what is it, like the $80 weapon coding that they had for
You
season
mean the
3?
$700 one? That one? Yeah.
The fucking sparkly one, like people had that from the
Ridiculous.
old game. Like Saiyan Prince and all those that played the old game already had that. It is all, not even skins were new, it's all old. Name one piece that was new development and tell me that they were. And they're like, oh well, cheaters came in season 1. Yeah, but they still didn't develop a single new thing. They were not continuing development on the game. They were pulling in whatever they could.
I mean,
Do you think the Howler was? Do you think they actually thought the Howler is what we needed season 3 to like bring life to this game? They brought in the guy from like DayZ or whatever the hell that was, and they're like, "Yeah, we got the Howler. Like, we're good. That's what we needed. Is this PvP model that fucking ruins
we're
everything."
good.
It saved
good.
us. I mean, let's look at
It's
the game.
last
It's
thing
doing
they had.
great.
It's the last thing they had. They dropped the laser
Yeah.
drill and oil, which is from the old game. They again, I said besides map, so they came out with Theris, and it was a beautiful map, just performed terrible. And yeah, besides map, name one thing that was like new development. Not even talks of a new gun. Not even like, hey, we're thinking about a shotgun exotic.
They literally
Nothing.
leaked new guns. But they were me and Bomba, right? Me and Bomba, they released some
I love
trailer,
Bomba.
right, for a season, and in the background, in like a screen in the background, there were 2 new guns that we've never seen. We're like, oh my god, 2 new guns. He made a video on it. I made a video on it, and then nothing. The guns.
You know what's
didn't
funny
even
is
exist.
like they had a rocket launcher sitting in ICA on like the back wall, like as a prop. The entire like lifespan of the game, we just never even saw it as a
No.
weapon. Like,
So it's not. You didn't see new guns.
Oh
that
my
is
God. Yeah, it's
Never saw
annoying, but-
anything.
the haze or something. It like shot it, dude. If you look up, it's ridiculous. It shoots like giant bubbles and it like kills everything. And they were talking about bringing that back, but yeah, they brought in the Comrade. That's from the old game. They didn't develop a single new thing or even talk about new development. Anytime people brought up, dude, Corby said it probably more than anybody when I was still in partner chat before I got kicked out. And like an airdrop, I guarantee, dude, I'm not a game dev, but like that can't be 3 seasons
Yeah.
worth of like trying to
Bro,
develop.
if they can make
something.
the meteor animation and just how the meteors work, they can make a fucking airdrop.
Bro,
Like,
they could do a meteor, but like just put a chest in the middle.
yeah, exactly.
Like literally, and you know that they're capable because they changed it for the end of season events. Like
Yeah.
you go and you mine and you find something else. What, dude? Just let me mine and like pick up a Bassi or something out of it. Like I don't care. You didn't have to get in depth, but they were capable. But it's new development. They didn't plan it from day one. I swear to God. All it was how much money can we get out of this? Season 1, they put Rick Deckard, which is like one of their top guys that you've seen in all the videos. He was gone like after season 1. They put him on a new project. So right away, I called the end of season 1 that was going to be it. But
Yeah.
no new development. They did not plan on continuing. They just got as much money as they could, and that's why they were free to play, because then people wouldn't complain about servers because they paid for the game.
Yep, that makes sense. And they gave season 3. They
And
released.
it's kind of crazy because like I could understand that play for a game that's like very obviously going to fail, but like why would you do that for a game that literally has Summit 1G, Landmark, like you got Shroud on there and it's just still like a money
Shroud
grab. Like bro,
playing
you have a
for
chance to make a
free?
game that's like has longevity and you just like I don't know, they scam themselves honestly. Like I don't know why they would do
They
what
could
they
have made
did.
so
but-
much more money. They were just.
Yeah, they could have made a lot more money.
They
What's the-
literally.
I'll give you $100 right now, or I'll give you $1,000 in 5 years. Like, what would you rather have?
That's
And they took
true,
$100.
And-
Yeah, they screwed up big time. But I mean, it's just. What was I gonna? There was a reference I was gonna make, but I completely forgot it. But yeah, they screwed the pooch. I think if they just gave us people that knew how to code, right, and we had all 4 of us, we could have made 7 times better game than they ever could have. The devs were just, again, like we spoke about before. I made probably in total like 25 to 30 pages of notes of just what the game needed to succeed.
Yeah, I mean,
And-
dude, it literally it just comes down to the fact that they don't play their own game. Like
yeah,
if you don't play your own game, you're not going to know what the game needs. And if you're not going to play your own game, you need to talk to people that do play your game. And they just refuse to do so. And that's all it is, man. It's like I'd be mind blown if any dev team can make all the correct decisions without playing their game at all to like at the end and like beating all the quests and all that stuff. Like it's
Not
just
even-
impossible.
Not even their own game, just the genre. Like
Yeah,
on the
that
side, you
too.
could see, dude, you'd have 15 devs playing Rocket League. Like they just like, and don't get me wrong. So everybody says like you need to play your game
Yeah.
all the time. Dude, like I lifted for 10 years. I opened a gym, and it's been the hardest to be consistent after opening my gym. I am there all the time. I am
Yeah.
cleaning. I'm trying to lift, and like I see something, I go clean it. Like it does make it very difficult. Like I need to like mentally be prepared to set aside time to do it. But you need to, like, if it's part of the job, I mean, you have to do it. And I think just having people involved, even if you're pulling in devs from like outside devs who have worked on the genre or even play the genre, because you actually don't know like the dopamine hit. If you're a League of Legends player compared to a COD player compared to Tarkov, like the reason you're playing that game is very different. You literally do not understand what people enjoy out of the game. Like, what are you looking for? Where does the dopamine hit? Why are you logging on? And if you have like one random dev that kind of plays that's not enough. Like you
Yeah.
need people who at least understand the genre, especially the guys up top. And you
Yep.
get a guy up top who like plays Rocket League and that's his main game. Like you can't be mad at him for enjoying Rocket League, but like maybe this is just not the project for him. Or he needs to be man enough to like ego check himself and understand that this is not his genre, but he understands how to be like the director.
yeah. I mean, I did you hear that?
Yeah.
What the hell? Scared the shit out of me. Well, there was so just to put in perspective how good they are at hiring people, Jaeger made 3 games. 2 of them shut down in the past 3 months. They have 1 game
Yeah.
left, and that game's dead. Like they just don't know what they're doing. It's just and
I mean, they did their last video. The last actual video was while the game's dying. It was like showcasing how great it is to work there, and it just seems like it's a very comfortable, inclusive, like you can be yourself, but like dude, you got to work too. Like if you want to be that comfortable, like right now, like the gym's the perfect example, man. I am as successful as I can possibly be for my size. I don't have to do shit right now, but I had like a year of not sleeping. Like I did 48-hour stints consistently. Like you got to bust your ass to be able to get to that point. If they want to be in a company that's just inclusive and super chill and everyone's friendly and we don't want to work too hard and we're going to take 18 vacations, like you have to work hard enough to do that. Like how many times, like we joke about it, but they released their game like season 1 and all the CMs were on vacation.
Yep.
It's like, hey, I'll be back in like 18 days, sorry, and then they're sick. Like it's one or the other. And I
Yeah.
mean there's a point where, and they'll even say, well, we worked really hard to get it out. I'm like, that it doesn't end here. Like you got to be around the next couple of weeks. Like this is literally you showcasing your game. This is your business, and you're just gonna leave.
Bro,
Have
the
you-
Dark and Darker devs have put out more patches for their game than maybe the entirety of Cycle's life.
Did you see in Discord? It was one time. I think it was SDF or somebody. They like did an update. This was one of the tests, and it was just like a bunch of numbers after that. And he literally fell asleep at his computer. He's like, "Yeah, I didn't sleep
Yeah.
for like 50 hours. I passed out." And
As I'm just,
mid
like,
typing the patch. Yeah.
I won't lie, man. Like, I haven't been enjoying Dark and Darker, but like, I understand that, like, it's early access. Like, they're at least they're figuring it out. You know what I mean? They've had a patch every week basically with like respectable balance changes. Like, they're actually changing real things. It's not Cycle where they change. What didn't they change something one time where like you one tap green arm or you hit like one less shot on green armor or something? There's something super bizarre like the K28 or something.
That's
just
the
like
same thing
you
with
could just
the armor pen thing. It just
yeah, like
doesn't make sense.
I remember, I don't know, they put out a patch that was like super bizarre. Like they changed the damage
the
number by like
recent
one, literally one value,
Yeah,
and
the
it did
recent
nothing
one?
basically.
Yeah, they nerfed the scrapper, which is an SMG. It's a green one. They
Yeah.
nerfed the fall off range on a gun that has the word that the gun goes like this, and if they're 2 feet away, you're not gonna hit them. And they nerfed it like you could it just
Dude, tinfoil hat on. I'm telling you, it's just they had to do patch notes, so they changed random shit. So it seemed like they were developing. It's just every week they needed it. They're like, hey, let's adjust these numbers, and it was always like working on these bugs, and they were never fixed. It's
Yeah.
just
But yeah, point
That's
is like
why
I
it's free
respect
to play.
I respect the Dark and Darker devs because they're actually putting in work, and like I can tell just by reading their notes, I can tell they're actually critically thinking about like what they're changing, and I can respect that. So
I think
but yeah,
tying it into
Cycle
like
is-
I think tying it into Marathon being that large of a company, obviously a lot of times the big companies, it's just money, so games aren't done well. Or they just want you to buy the next thing. But a company that size, we're not going to have the issues that we had with Cycle being that small, inclusive. Like they're just either you do the job or you're out. Cycle, it just seemed, or Jaeger, it just seemed like they, even if, hey, I don't want to come in today, they'll be like, okay, just please take the day off, relax while their game is dying.
have you seen
And
their work
I think
schedule?
Bungie.
Have
Oh,
you seen
it-
Jaeger's work? It literally says on the website their work days are from 10 to 4, and you can schedule your day how you like it. So you could come in at 12 if you want. You know what I mean? Just
Oh, it's
whatever
great
you
to
wanna
hire
do.
people, but then they don't do any work, and then
Yeah.
you don't make any money, and your game's dying. Then now you have to go work at Bungie, and guess what? It's not just 4-hour work days where you kind
Yeah.
of figure it out. You're gonna bust your ass and actually work.
yep.
But if you build the game great as a little bit smaller company like Jaeger, you start getting that money. Then guess what? Then you can start freeing up your schedule a little bit because you've actually been successful. But if you
Like-
half-ass it before you're there,
obviously Bungie is not perfect in every way, but to this day, like there's been so many games where at the start of their game they're really transparent about like what the changes they're making, and like they'll have like even like dev update videos, but then like eventually you just kind of stop getting that from them. But like
Yep.
from the start of time, Bungie has done like This Week in Destiny, I think, or basically they put out a blog post every week of like talking about what they're trying to do, and like I can respect that because at least they're being transparent at some like to some degree, like every week consistently, right? Like it's not something they like randomly do every month or like every year they put out a post. It's like every week. It's like This Week in Destiny. So, I know Bungie is at least has a good track record in that regard with like talking to their player base. So
Yeah, well,
excited
that's
for
good.
that.
That's good.
I'm a
So-
firm believer that most companies did do the Fortnite treatment where those devs went batshit for 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, brand new patch, brand new skins, brand new mechanic. Every week for 2 weeks for an entire year. Every 2 weeks is a huge update. Something crazy comes. This new change happens. Then the seasons drop. Like those devs worked their teeth off, and now they have breaks all the time.
Yeah, Fortnite. I don't know how they did it, but they.
Well, like
I don't know.
yeah.
They found the
Well, like-
wave. They knew they were on it, and they rode it.
But see,
Yeah.
the problem I have with Fortnite is like they worked really hard, but like I don't know if you guys remember, like back in the day, like that Donald Mustard guy used to literally make video updates, like a recording of him talking about what they were trying to do in the game, and then it just randomly ceased. And like, don't get me wrong, like Fortnite's a game that like I don't know if we'll see like the level of like attention to detail and just success, and I mean that is a monster company, right? Like the stuff they do in their game is insane, but I feel like they also kind of lost sight of like the original like be transparent with our players and like have this like actual community. Like I don't know, dude, like you can't replace having one of your lead devs talking face to face with like the community, and like that just creates like that sort of like connection that you don't really get if it's just like a a text-based, patch notes. Like it's so much more personal when you get like that, the guy is actually in charge and like making real decisions, like talking to you in a video.
When you
Yeah.
get big enough, you just
You don't
I
need
thought it
to.
was muted. When you get big enough, it just doesn't matter. At that point, I mean, they're probably going to ride it out and they're going to work on another project. You get so big, like even League and everything. Why is Riot branching off and all this other stuff? And because League, it's just big enough where it's just going to sustain itself for the most part. You can do random ass updates. Every time I watch like a random Fortnite stream, it looks like a different game. Like they're in cars and they're riding rockets, and it just doesn't matter because that's what people want to play. When you get big enough, you don't have to be personal anymore because people know that that's your product. Like again, I always try talking like business side just because I have my own, and it's like right off the bat, I had to be I had to do shit for free. I was training for free, and I was offering memberships. Day passes were free because I just had to showcase what I had. And then once you realize that it's like people want it and you're successful, you can kind of back off. And you need X amount, but you get to that size. And I mean, that's why I'm excited that it's Bungie, because it's such a large company and they're going to have the tools to actually create, this type of game. And this isn't the game you have to worry about where they're not going to continue development because it's a standalone. They're not going to want you to buy the next one. It's not Marathon. We want people to, pay up front, get 1 million copies sold, and then we want you to buy the next game. This is a game that they should be continuously working on, like Destiny. So that's why I'm so excited for it.
I agree. I think they'll do a great job, but at the
Do
end,
we want to talk about that like system segment that you were talking about earlier, where you all just like talk about something you want to see?
systems.
I just can't keep saying we should talk about like the systems we're hoping to see in Marathon, like.
But yeah, no, Vasco
Did you
asked,
say
and then
something
Corby said he wants to see leaderboards, and then we kind of
On
a tangent.
Oh, yeah.
That's how it be.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
go for it. I don't know.
I mean, my system in general is I just want, every time I go into a raid, I want there to be enough randomness where you don't know exactly what's going to happen. I want to see the care packages. I want to see. So with Bungie, what I'm really excited for is the PvE. Cycle, you were screwed no matter what. People are like, dude, we want more monsters. Like, do you not realize how stupid the Cycle mobs were? Like, they would spit, they would run, and like, do you really want to see more of that? Like, that's not what you. Cycle had extremely good PvP. The PvE was terrible. So what do you prioritize? Just prioritize PvP, which is why I wanted like that kind of BR PvP map, because you get away from the PvE. I think most games are that way. Star Siege is the same way. It's very basic. They just shoot. One has a rocket launcher, one has a sniper. The priority is PvP. I think this game could be the first one that actually does a good job when it comes to PvE that's worth doing to enhance your PvP. Destiny kind of does it, but it's very separated. Like, you go into a PvP match. I think this is the first game that is going to be like, imagine doing a dungeon was actually worth doing in Cycle because it would enhance me in PvP. Obviously, it depends on how all the other systems are, but so kind of going back to the point is the randomness. It can't just be like care packages. It could actually be like world bosses. It could be almost like Destiny's the shit that just happens in the world. Like, you just have to go here for that reason. And they talked about how the servers are going to be longer, right? They just kind of keep happening for Marathon.
Yeah.
Did they?
So with that, I don't think it's going to be like the 45-minute Tarkov raid. They said that it's going to go longer, more like Cycle, I believe, or at least like hinted at that.
Yeah, I don't know if we're getting persistent servers per se, but it does seem like it's going to be like a, not like a just set raid where it's like after X amount of time it's just like done and
That's
everybody loads in at the
interesting.
same time.
I didn't know that. Well, they have a lot of difficult stuff to get after then with stream snipers and.
Yeah, theoretically, it's even just 45-minute raids like Tarkov or whatever. I mean, you still could just, each raid could have random stuff happen, so each raid is different. It's still, you're going in PvP with the boys. Maybe you got to farm some stuff, but like, let's say you want to go in and you got to kill X mob, but then like an event happens, you just decide to do that instead. Or you have to prioritize one or the other. That's the main thing I'd like to see.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I don't know if I could consider this a system, but like, kind of brought it up earlier, but I really just want to see like items that are just like super rare. Like, I feel like a lot of these games, like, I become so like used to just seeing all the same items, and like there's nothing like, I understand the value of that item, but even that becomes kind of like weak towards like the end of like, my, like 3 weeks in, I'm kind of just like, all right, whatever. But like, I really want there to be items that are like really powerful, really hard to get, really rare. And like, it's okay. I feel like people need to understand it's like it's okay to make a weapon that's extremely powerful. Like, if you balance every weapon perfectly, that's that's fantastic. But then you kind of just don't have any weapons that are like, wow, I just I'm risking a lot here, but I also have like a lot of firepower, right? So, um, I just hope they're not scared to create weapons that are like really fun to use, and like it's gonna suck when you die to it, but it's gonna feel so good if you kill like somebody who has it, and now you're the one who has it, right? Like
Yeah.
I really want there to be like some crazy shit.
Like Kinky said, it's all based off of rarity. Like you can have these
Yeah.
crazy guns in the game, just don't make them available every 2 seconds. Like in Psycho, we had pretty good guns, but you could buy them. Like if there was a
Yeah,
gun that you
exactly.
could only find in raid, that you had a certain amount of uses, like if you could only use it for like 3 raids, like who cares if you died to it? You wouldn't die to it every raid. Like that's what we
But
need.
the thing is, like with Cycle, like even before, I mean, it was really bad when they started handing them out at the end of the quest line. But like crafting a karma, like I would, crafting any of those exotics, maybe besides like the Zeus beam, like it wasn't easy. Like for what you had to do to craft one of those things, they should be powerful, and they just like were not. Like I wouldn't even have used any of them, maybe besides the comrade. Like
They were
even if I was just handed it, right? Like it's
Yeah.
just they were. I still feel like they were scared to make a gun that was just too good, and it's like that's fine. Make a gun that's too good. That's completely fine. Just don't make it something you can achieve or like acquire really easily.
Season 3, since I quit right away, I gave you my Zeus beam and you died instantly.
It's so bad.
I think you died to like a Gorgon and an Advocate or something by base camp. I just
Oh,
like
yeah.
gave you the Zeus and we were kind of joking, like gifted subs for it, and he just like died instantly with it.
And then
Yeah.
they released even
It's just
worse
too powerful,
versions
man.
of those guns. Like they said, you know what? There's not enough content in the game. Let's reskin all the skins, change the colors, bring them down a tier. Like Inky said, no new content. Just
Oh, reskin, because again, that's what people are asking for, but they
Yeah.
knew that the game wasn't going.
Dude, like it's such a cheap tactic, but like it still could have been cool, except they just fucked it up again. Like, why not just make it an exotic version that's like super rare? Like, why do you have to make it a green,
made a
like
worse
fucking
versions of all
random
the
green
guns.
gun? That's just like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was honestly exotic rarity in terms of like how good it
Yeah,
was.
Then
But
they nerfed it to the ground,
yeah.
so it doesn't. I don't know. They had like 3 devs working on the game in season 3. Like it doesn't even matter. Like the cycle
that's
just.
true.
It's just that's. It was the most fun I've ever had in any game in my life, and yet it was the worst game I've ever played. So it just is what it is. But yeah, I don't know what else I'd want to see in Marathon. What else I'd want to see in Marathon? Not progression wise, but like content wise. I think we've hit a lot of the good points. But if you guys want to pick some questions to talk over from the Discord, maybe I know we got a couple more, maybe 1 or 2 more. That might be good. Like right here, I'll read this one. Sly. He said the trailer depicts the 3D printing of an avatar that you control remotely in Raid. How deep do you think the 3D printing aspect of the game is? Like, is it just lore? Could it be the actual main currency? Materials sync of the game? This, like he says, it could be just a complete lore aspect of the game. But again, it could be a currency. It could be, like a scav run. Who knows?
I think it's just
So,
gonna
like-
be like the cosmetic situation, like how you apply like your certain skins, your colors, the faces you get, armors. Like it's probably just gonna be what they call like where you go to change your appearance of your character. You go to the 3D printer.
Oh, like
You reprint.
customization wise?
Yeah, that's what it seems like to me. Like everything you're doing is your avatar is printed using the silk of those little worms you see. They're called silkworms, pretty much in the game too. It's even in lore that they're used to print like these like robotic things. Like that's how we're made. If you watch back the trailer, the announcement trailer, you can see them being made, right?
Yeah.
Like that's like what that is. So the 3D printer is just probably going to be character customization.
Could be
I'm
cool
just
though.
assuming that.
Could be cool.
I
if
mean, you could
want-
also just be like printing attachments or printing like implants, or whatever.
Yeah,
Like
'cause
I
we saw that too.
don't necessarily think you're gonna need like currency to print a character, because like, what if you just have none, so you just can't play the game? Like I don't know. It'll probably be like less important than like actually being able to play the game off of having like printing your character. So yeah, it's probably cosmetic, or it's probably just like things that don't really directly affect your gameplay, like attachments or whatever.
It could also be like
Well,
go ahead.
the second part of his question is, he says, I could totally see a gameplay loop where you print out a guy and send him out. He dies, you print up another one. I mean, like, that technically is what we're doing. Like we are remotely We don't drop in hot, right? We're not coming down in drop pods. We're not walking into the raid. We are sending these robot versions of ourselves down there while we control them remotely. That is what the raid is, right? Like, we are humans in a station. We don't go down there. We are not down there. Like, it is these silk robot things that I don't even know what to call them right now. I mean, they're runners obviously, but
Yeah.
it's that's their niche for this game. It's not a drop pod. It's not a walk in. It's you are controlling this thing, and you are somewhere in the heavens,
Yeah, because you're
AKA.
safe and that guy's in danger, you know?
which is the respawn mechanic. That's how you can always drop back down in even after you die.
Yeah.
Like,
I would like that this is maybe just this is me hypothesizing, but I would like that this is like a type of currency. So say there's a really like a expensive armor piece, like in Black Ops 3 they had this one thing called hero armor, and it was like if you completed certain challenges you'd unlock like this full gold armor for a certain character. So I would like it if like maybe this is a reward you get for doing challenges, and then you get a certain amount of these, and then you can buy certain cosmetics. That'd also be pretty cool. So you could theoretically print stuff on your character and you can customize them how you want, because you're again sending this runner down. You're not sending yourself down, so you can really put whatever the hell you want on him, you know, because if he dies you can just build him again, you know. So that'd be pretty cool. But any other questions you guys are looking at question wise?
that was maybe I was looking at too. That was a very long question.
There's a lot of good questions. Again, if you're not in the Discord, join the Discord. First link in the description. Drop questions in the podcast questions channel we have. We'll try to read them as many as we can on the pod. So try to get that done for you guys. But you know, if there's, are we seeing any or no?
I'm still looking,
Looking.
scrolling.
Word.
It's a lot of the same questions.
Yeah, it's a lot of-
That's-
yep.
A lot of people like ask about proximity chat. We already talked about that in the
Yeah.
first podcast.
Yep.
We're assuming there should be. Quick answer. We don't know. We hope there is. There needs to be.
Yeah.
LDR.
Yep. But again, I think this pod we got a lot of stuff out of the way, because I mean it's just good that Marathon can kind of take into account what other games did badly, so they can build off of that and make a killer game that we'll all actually have fun on, you know, and have something to play. That'd be fun. So if they can, you know, do something about it, hopefully we get some content or some news or something on Marathon, so we can have something to hypothesize on this game. That would be great. Kinky, thanks for being here. Kinky gave a lot of good points. Thank you, Kinky, the phenomenal stud muffin we have right here. And yes, if you guys do enjoy, leave a like, subscribe. Top link in the description. Join the Discord. If you don't, you're weird. I'll have all the socials down below. I'll put all Kinky socials down below. Go watch the guy stream. Phenomenal. You know what I mean? But yeah, if you guys did enjoy, leave a like, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. Good job, guys. Really, really killed it. That was good. That was an hour and a half.
Damn, I thought it was like 2 hours, bro.
No, I mean, it kind of was.